Hello and welcome to the meditation conversation. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and today I'm joined by Lori Williams. Lori is an author, poet, spiritual teacher, and intuitive. She has a love for helping others along their journey to awakening by utilizing her insights and creative endeavors through her brand, Planet Castleberry. So, Lori, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Hi, Kara. I'm so excited to be here.
So, you and I have talked offline a little bit about your spiritual awakening journey and how things have unfolded for you in recent years. And then you were saying right before we started that you feel like a completely different person, even from that conversation. So, what can you share with us about how things have happened for you in understanding yourself as more than your physical 3D expression?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Right. Where does that
Right.
question take you? What
Right.
sparks with that?
Oh gosh, yeah, there's so much. I know, yeah, when we talked kind of earlier last year, things were coming together for me, but I had even kind of told you like it's not there yet. Like I can tell things are pulling together and integrating and whatnot. And so really, I would say kind of summer of last year and then really the fall a lot of activation, downloads. Kind of feel like my higher self really just kind of merged in and really got into alignment of all the things that were already there. It just kind of solidified and came together. A big part of that was the book, the Castleberry Cove Poems for the Journey. Um,
If
there
you're
you
looking on YouTube, you can see the book. I've got it here.
go.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it all really was converging around that time. We obviously, for the sake of time, to kind of go through the entire awakening journey of what that's looked like for the past several years. I'll kind of spare us all those details. But what was happening is I was really just starting to get a lot of downloads and a lot of information as I was growing my brand and starting to put everything together. And it was first really kind of started out as a podcast, and I was doing that and doing these episodes and meditations and things like that, kind of just intuitively, like it was coming through me. I wasn't having to do it in multiple takes. It was starting to kind of come through, and that was kind of my entry point of like something else is happening here. I'm channeling something. Something is coming through. So, really through kind of deep diving into myself, doing, as you know, shadow work and all these things, meditation, all of that was just continuing to merge. And I was trying to write a children's book. I wasn't quite sure where everything was going, but it wasn't flowing. It was kind of, I was getting resistance. Like I would get the story, but I'd run up into, a hang up as far as how am I going to do the illustrations? How is this going to come to fruition? So all of a sudden it was just like just free flow and let yourself go, and poetry started coming to me, and I was like, okay, I'm a writer and I like to write and everything, but that's never been the modality or the medium that I've chosen was poems. So I found such a freedom in that. What was kind of happening as far as the rhythm and the timing, I would go into meditation, and I kind of switched up my meditations. Normally, it was a very kind of calm Zen type of meditation I was doing, and all of a sudden I was like, well, I really just like techno and EDM music and things like that. And I had created a playlist, and so I would start listening to that, and it would really get my vibrations up, and I would really kind of get into more of that, I guess, kind of like a trance, like state or whatnot. And so I would start writing, and it was like poetry just started flowing. And I felt so free. I felt like I didn't have these rules and parameters that a book or something like that was holding me to. So I started realizing, I think I'm automatic writing, and I think that's what's happening here. And so again, I would get these poems in 5 minutes. Like all the poems you read in that book, those were written in less than 10 minutes time.
Wow.
They would just flow. I mean, I think there's like 77 pages in the book. I forget how many, I think it's around like 65 or 70 poems. And they were just flowing, all different topics, but I could tell it was about the awakening journey and kind of that process. And I still wasn't quite putting it all together. I was just letting the creative juices flow and letting that automatic writing start to flow. And I could tell I always feel it over here. That's where I feel my guide who really works with me on the writing. And it would just kind of be like coming in through this left
Mm.
side. And I would just allow myself to kind of open up to that. And I'd go back and reread it and be like, that's really good. Like
Mm.
there's something there. And I could feel a frequency in the words. And so again, I just started putting it all together and was like, I think this is going to be a book. I think that's what this is. So when I started researching and mapping out how am I going to do this, a lot of we'll get into dreams or whatever later, but a lot of dreams were coming in. Those are some of the poems, but that's where I'd get a lot of the downloads and insights. And so I kept saying, like, how am I going to lay this out? How is this supposed to all come together? Because I've got, poems over here about, taking a journey on a craft. And then I've got some over here about, purging your shadows and, things like that. So I'm like, how does this come together and start to merge? And I woke up one morning and he had given me the entire table of contents and how we were going to lay it out. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And so I started, again, just starting to lean more into it. And so I just sat down at my computer and started composing and writing it all, and taking the written forms from my notebook and starting to type it up. And as I started doing that, that's when, it was really, I was like, I could feel the frequency in the words. I could feel myself like right in my heart chakra, really just kind of feeling that resonance. And I was like, there's something here, there's something
Wow.
here. So yeah, so automatic writing has really been a catalyst to opening me up. And from there, it has just everything has just flooded in. So, the healing abilities, memories, channelings, like all of these things, the dreams, lucid dreaming, it all just really was a gateway to getting me now on my path and helping others and different things like that, doing personalized guided meditations that are opening up people. So it's been an incredible experience and I'm just loving every minute of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing that you were really feeling that alignment through your creativity. Is there anything that you can share with us about the guide that you feel on your left side, or is that mysterious to you? Do you have any insight?
I have full insight.
Oh,
So,
can you share?
yeah, it's so funny that you asked that because as this morning as I was prepping, I was like, how far into this am I going to go?
You
So
know I'm gonna pull.
I
Come
know
on.
I was like, if she pulls, I'll go.
All right.
um, so it's a cool story. It's a really cool story. So as I'm writing again, so I'm kind of still in that like channeled automatic writing state. I'd come out of a poem and stuff. And so I could still feel things like coming. And something kind of weird happens too that I've actually just noticed. My eyes will like pull. And I've had that happen to me all throughout my life. And I just never have given it much attention. And now that I'm, focused and I'm writing, it'll happen. And I'm like, oh, that's when information's coming through. It's a really weird experience, but it gives me confirmation that
Which is
I'm
and so you mean like your eyes just naturally look in that direction?
no, it's like I'll be looking down, but yeah, they'll feel like they pull to the left. And so
Oh.
almost kind of like they go like out of focus like that. And
Oh.
it's real quick, it's real brief. And I've always felt it. And I just thought, oh, I'm just kind of refocusing or something. And
Uh-huh.
now that I'm more conscious, I'm like, no, yeah, it's a message coming in.
Oh,
And so
cool.
that's kind of been fun to kind of connect the dots on that because yeah, I've felt that before and they'll kind of like blur out or pull. I don't know. It's like you can feel the muscle in your eye kind of like just move or something. It's very weird. Anyways, so that was kind of happening. And so I'm writing, and all of a sudden, the name Devin comes to me. And I was like, I just wrote it down real fast, and I was like, what is that about? And so, because that's kind of what happens in automatic writing. You get stuff and you can kind of decipher it, later, but write down what you're getting in that moment. Trust yourself, all that good stuff. Um, and so I started getting real curious. because I was like, there's something here, there's something with this. So I go and I look up that name, and it means poet, overseer.
Oh my
and, and
gosh.
I was like, oh, okay. And so, and it felt very familiar. It's like all this, I just felt all this love and just this, like kind of this, that universal warmth and wrapping you up in a hug. And so I was like, okie dokie, there's something here. And that's again, it's all starting to pour in, starting to connect dots. So I'm friends with Daniel Scranton, and do you know who he is?
Uh-uh.
Okay, you'll like him. You'll look him up. He's a channeler. And so I had worked with him before and had some sessions, and randomly, he's always booked like 3 or 4 months out. And I had randomly had another session that was going to be coming up right about this time. And I was like, oh, okie dokie. Well, this is again, not, random. So let's start to get some answers. So, and I had been told, that I have a connection to Nordic Pleiadians, and I feel very much a resonance with that. I've been told that by lots of people. It comes through like anytime you get like a starseed reading or something like that,
Uh-huh.
that comes through. And so it makes sense because of the modalities I like to use with healing, guidance, channeling, all that kind of stuff, writing. It really fits with that system. And so so I asked, Daniel came on, was like, who do you want to talk to? Because I was just thinking, oh, he channels the Arcturians. That's what this is going to be. And I was like, wait, I have a choice, like we have options here. And he was like, yeah, he was like, we can do like the Pleiadian council or whatever. And I was like, okay. So it was just, again, more synchronicities were happening.
Yeah.
And so, he was like, okay, let's bring him through or whatever. So that was one of the main questions, we started asking or whatever, and was like, was this book channeled? And they were like, yes, absolutely. That's what, this is. And again, I'm kind of making it brief because it was a long session, but, and so I started asking about, what's this about? And it was like, yes, this is your guide. You've done multiple lifetimes with this person, and he's a Pleiadian. You know each other very, very well. And, he's guiding you through, he's kind of that main guide that has stepped in and is guiding you and providing this insight. And we're going to continue to let him, see what the next projects are going to be. And there was just a lot of info that came in, and it was all confirming what I was getting individually. So, because I'm always using discernment to kind of sync everything up of like, what is this? And so it was weird, things that I was having in meditations or that I was writing down was being brought through. And there was this continual syncing as we continued, to ask questions and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, there's a little more to it, but
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, when you said Devon and you were kind of explaining some of it, I was feeling these tingles like in the medulla oblongata area in the back, like kind of that sixth chakra
Oh
entry
my
point
gosh.
that's in the back of your head, because there's like
City,
positive and negative poles.
you want to know that's interesting. So you're feeling an energy transference because that's what came through the channeling was in the back of my neck is where I will feel him. And
Really?
yes.
That's so interesting. I felt it
So
2 different times, and then it spread down to my upper back as well.
that's it.
Well,
That's so
how fun is that?
it's great. It's so fun. Yeah. So you're
I love
feeling
it.
you're
Well,
feeling that.
welcome, Devin. Oh my gosh, what a blessing.
He's here. And it's always this kind of this left side is where I feel him and feel his presence, and then right in through there. So
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. What a
yeah.
blessing.
Yeah.
So I love how you've talked about this, we've kind of danced around it, but you're a very creative person. You've got and you've created this planet Castleberry, which, like you said, it started as a podcast, and it was kind of fantastical stories, but they were awakening stories. But it was kind of, oh, I think you froze. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Oh,
So yeah, the podcast started as sort of these I think of them as kind of the fantasy kind of realm on the surface, it
yeah.
was but there were deeper messages underneath and deeper like teachings. And now, like you mentioned, you have your book of poems, which is Castleberry Cove, Poems for the Journey.
Mhm.
And so let's talk about Castleberry, because I think this is also in your address, isn't it?
So that's where it's a play on that a
Okay.
little bit. Yeah. So that's what's funny. That, and you're right, that you can start to see that morphing of even my own transition of where it started out. It was more kind of character quality, and it was more, because again, I thought I was kind of going in that realm of like, children's podcast or the kind of in that more storytelling role. But I quickly, as my awakening was just like catapulting, deeper and deeper information and topics were starting to come through. And so that is a good kind of baseline catalyst, where if someone's just kind of wanting more like escapism and something to kind of listen to before you go to bed, or, something to kind of connect dots or whatever. But as my spiritual journey grew and all of this started coming in, the topics were deeper and the topics were more. But yeah, Planet Castleberry kind of encompasses all of it. So it's kind of that 5D world
Mhm.
that we're going to, of like where all of this sits and where my creativity is and where all of this is birthed out of. And so that's what it's really kind of, I've been able to merge all of these different topics and modalities, whether it be, the guided meditations or the healing or consulting, life coaching, career coaching. I have a background in all of that as well. And so it all kind of sits under this umbrella. And Castleberry Cove is kind of that retreat place where you're going through your awakening journey, where you can go to sit and meditate and work it out and all of those things. So it's all kind of all parts of a whole. But that's the brand where everything sits under. But I offer a lot of different services underneath that as well.
Yeah. So you have like Planet Castleberry, and then
Mhm.
you've got like your different continents, like the
That's a good way.
podcast and the books and the and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
coaching and
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it all
awesome.
kind of springs off of there.
Yeah.
So there's kind of something for everybody, because that's we're so layered and diverse,
Mhm.
as humans, but we're also multidimensional. We're doing all of these different facets to ourselves. And so that's kind of what Planet Castleberry looks like. It's equal parts creativity, intuition, and a little bit of logic in there so you can start to
Yeah.
rationalize through it.
Well,
So
that and it's so important, and I know I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but the creative parts of us are so instrumental in understanding this journey and understanding awakening, and because our rational mind, you talk about 5D, you can't really get your logical mind around it, because
yeah.
it's not the same. It's a different it requires a different level of thinking and
Yeah.
creativity. That utilization and the maturation of our imagination, is
Mhm.
so important for us to be able to be expanded enough to be able to start to understand what awakening is, what the next level is, what new earth or 5D or whatever is, because it allows you an understanding that isn't necessarily intellectual. It's like, okay, you can start to kind of feel it or process it or integrate it in a different way than the logical, rational mind has been my experience.
Ye Yeah, that's the whole thing. Intuition is never gonna be logical. So, it's always going to surprise you. It's going to be, calm. It never speaks in fear. And so that's the whole thing. Whenever you can get out of your mind and you can, I always picture, just kind of pushing that energy out of the mind and getting it down lower to where you can process and you can start
Mhm.
to get the real insight, the real good stuff. Because if we're sitting up in here trying to get it to logic and reason. That's 3D construct. That is, oftentimes they're getting a little blurry with the ego because it's wanting to come in there and decipher and figure out and like, how is this going to come to fruition? And that's not what intuition is. It's going to just, because it wants experience. It wants to push you towards your greatness. And so we're not used to, walking in that. We are used to playing small or feeling controlled or feeling powerless. And so when our intuition, our higher self steps in and is like, you know, go quit your 3D job and go pursue a spiritual business, or
Yeah.
go go take that trip, go live that dream. We have that instant like, how? With what? When? We want all those questions answered. And your intuition in the universe, it doesn't function like that, because there is no time, there is no linear path. It just knows what it wants for you, and that's really what you've already designed for yourself.
Yeah, right, right.
So,
Well, let's talk about dream interpretation and how you use it in your growth.
oh gosh. My dream state is, it's such a precious thing to me, because I really feel like that has been my lifeline to even before I was awake. So it was that escape route. As a kid, I mean, I've had vivid dreams as a very young kid all throughout my life. I can pretty much recall a piece or of every dream every night. I can recall something and bring that through. Some nights are real. I mean, I can have a full on experience and remember that in detail. I can lucid dream. I can do all of that. But it really has been, yeah, that lifeline to connecting me to that other part of myself, of always knowing there was more, always knowing that there was something else beyond this. And are you getting a little bit of feedback at
Mm-mm.
all? Okay. There was always that connection to maybe some of the boredom or the uneasiness that I had always felt, where I was like, there's just more than this. I was always seeking higher answers, and I wanted to know things. And my dream state really provided those answers to me, where I could shut off my brain and not be interrupted by ego or programming or whatever. And so in the morning, I'd have all this insight and information. And I started to look at my dreams of, what was going on in the dream, like who was there, what was the feeling. And that would connect me back to what was going on in the waking life that I was dealing with. So it was like this thread that was always there to kind of weave everything together. Um, so since full like awakening, the dreams have only just increased, and they've just gotten even more vivid. The recall is very strong. I've had some really cool 5D dreams, is what I call them, where I've in New Earth and I'm seeing that, experiencing that. Um, and yeah, it's just precognitive dreams. I will have those a lot. So if something is going to be popping up that I kind of need to deal with, or be alerted to, I will get a dream. Oftentimes it's usually about 3 to 5 days before that occurs. And so it's been a
Mm.
good like check for me, to where if I know what they feel like. So when I have that type of dream, I will just kind of, write it down, put a pin in it, and then watch and wait
Do you
for
have an
what happens.
example of when that's happened?
Um, I do. So I'll kind of like leave names and specifics out of it.
Yeah.
So there was a person that has been kind of a challenge or a trigger for me in the past, and so this has happened 3 times with that person, when they were going to be approaching me, or there was going to be a manipulative situation
Oh.
where I needed to be able to stand my ground, and so one of them was actually going to be taking place at a funeral that we were both going to be at.
Oh.
And I saw the funeral and I saw that person standing there, and I saw the conversation and what they were trying to do to derail and kind of get me rattled in that situation. And I saw how I responded and stood in my power and what I said and how I did it calmly and everything. Sure enough, 4 days later, that, because I knew that funeral was going to happen when I had the dream, so I knew that that was going to occur. So at the funeral, and it plays out exactly like my dream.
You're
She,
kidding.
she says it verbatim. what I saw in
Really?
the dream. Yeah. And
Wow.
what was so great about that, it was just that precognition warning. So I remembered in the dream how I handled it, and I did that right there in that moment, dissolved everything
Oh,
and moved right through.
wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So are there any like tricks or tips that you do to kind of strengthen your dream state? I know it sounds like it's always been like this, but do you have any suggestions for people who want to kind of have the experiences that you have with the strength of the dreams to kind of help with that?
Yeah, and I'm getting, like, full body chills as you're
Oh,
asking
I love it.
that.
I love it.
So, I guess we need to tune into this.
Yeah.
Um, so I do believe it was kind of like an innate gift that I must have told myself, like, "We're not gonna forget this part of ourselves," or whatever. So, yes, it maybe came a little more naturally to me, but I believe anybody can do anything. I believe we all have these abilities to tap into the higher realms. So for me, intention setting is huge. So, set your intentions before you go to bed of what it is that you're wanting to dream about, or what experience you're wanting to have, or problem you're wanting to solve. So, setting that intention, writing it down, even, you can put that by your bedside. I also have crystals by my bedside that kyanite is a crystal that, for me, I really feel like connects me to all of that. I've had dreams obviously without kyanite, but I think it's a good kind of amplifier. And so I use that, and then listening. It's kind of works with the automatic writing, listening to like theta waves, and because you want to get your mind in that theta brainwave state, and that way you're very relaxed and you're able to be in that receptive mode. But the other part is, not to force, just allow. So,
Mm.
whenever you are in that state, where you're setting those intentions, and give it time, and the other thing is dream journaling. You may not think that you
Yeah.
are getting any hits. You know what I mean? You may just think, oh, I'm not getting
Mm.
anything. You've got to start training your brain. And so even if, all you remember is there was, two lions in my dream and they were orange, write it down, because you're going to start training that muscle memory to start to remember, to start to recall, because you are dreaming. You're just wanting to remember it. You're wanting to have
Right.
that recall in the morning so you can do something with it, because it's happening no matter if you're conscious of it or not. So it's integrating, it's happening for you, but you now just want to learn how to work with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Those are great tips. Thank you. I've been I dream journal. I mean, I've been doing it for really like for years, and it
Mhm.
is very helpful, just to and doing it as soon as you wake up, because I
Mhm.
find that my dreams seem so vivid the minute I wake up. And
Yeah.
it's like there's no way I'll forget this. And all I have to do is like go to the bathroom and come back and I'm like, "What was it?" You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
kinda
because there's
like yeah, it's like
yeah,
if
that's
you
so
wanna
true.
remember, like, do it as soon as you wake up. Like, don't take it for granted because it's such a different brainwave state, and when the more you come out of that state, the more difficult it is to recall.
Yeah, because theta state is where all the magic and the juice happens. So, our dream cycles as you sleep, you're not always in that state. You kind of work up to that, and then it's there. On average, if I had to guess, because like I've woken up before and then I've gone back to sleep and then I can look at the time again, I would say 45, 50 minutes sometimes would maybe be that full deep dream state, that if I've had a really big one or whatnot. So, there's other cycles that you're going through. So you're coming in and out of those states. And when you wake up in the morning, that's a beautiful time, because that is theta state. So
Mm.
that time between wake and sleep, same thing before you're going to bed, I'm sorry, wake and then going into sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, sleeping, going into waking, that's really where theta likes to sit, and that's where you can get all that rapid recall. So,
Mm.
as painful as it is sometimes to go ahead and get that notebook out, or,
Yeah.
just, start to do it, and you'll start to see a pattern. You'll start to see that come through.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Well, This has just been such a joy. I mean, really, I've loved connecting with you so much. Tell us how to find your book and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, my website is probably the best place, so planetcastleberry.com, and Castleberry is spelled, Castleberry. Some people spell that
The
differently,
English way.
yeah.
Yeah, Bury.
Yeah, so, that's the best place. My book is on Amazon, so you can link off of the website and go buy it there, and then all of my, services, if you wanna work with me, or if you want a personalized guided meditation, it's not necessarily a one-on-one session, it's where, I will record and channel that for you of whatever you're wanting to experience through that meditation. Those are out there as well, so, yeah, you can just get everything there.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Lori. This has been a blast. It's really been
Yeah,
so much fun.
it has. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. You're just this big shining light.
Well, we know where all of it's coming from, so that
Right.
universal love.
Yes. Oh, and thank you for bringing Devin.
Yeah, he's here.
Yes, that's amazing.
He enjoyed.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kara.